Sup? I'm recording. Yep. Sup, though. I don't eat Burger King, so it's like, it shouldn't affect me, right?
I worked at Burger King during my senior year of high school. I think I worked there for a total of 5 months before quitting. There was one experience in particular that stands out when remembering my time there. It happened towards the end of my 5 months at work. I remember it was a weekend, and I was working a shift which started in the daytime and ended in the late afternoon. During that time, I was working behind the counter and taking orders from customers inside. In the hours that I worked that day, I interacted with so many people. For the most part, everything had seemed normal. Because it was the weekend, we were pretty busy during my entire shift. After I was done, I got off and drove back home. During that time, I lived with my parents and brother, maybe 10 minutes away from the Burger King in a house. When I got back home that day, I remember that my parents and brother were gone. I wasn't sure where they went at the time, but they would occasionally go places, and I didn't mind being by myself. When I got back, it was probably like 6 or 7 p.m. I made some food and then went into the living room. I was home for probably an hour and still by myself when there was a knock at the front door. It seemed a little bit odd because it was dark out by now. The sun had just set. Not knowing who it was, I got up and walked over to the door. I looked outside and saw that a man was standing there. He was about average height and just wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and appeared to be in his 40s. I didn't think he was a neighbor, but I thought that maybe that was possible. I was curious and decided to answer. After opening up the door, the guy said hi to me. He looked a little bit familiar for some reason after I got a closer view of his face. The guy asked me if I remembered him from earlier. I tried to think if I did, but I couldn't place exactly where I had seen him. I asked him from what. The man said that he was disappointed I forgot. He then told me that he was at Burger King earlier today. He said that I took his order, and when he said that, I did kind of remember him. It's just that I dealt with so many customers, it was all kind of a blur sometimes. Still, what exactly was this guy doing here at my house?
Shut up.
After standing there awkwardly for a few seconds, I just asked him that. The man told me that he thought I seemed really cool and wanted to hang out.
Are you serious?
He pointed over to his car. A sedan was parked on the side of the road a little ways back. The guy said that we could go right now. Now, keep in mind, I was a senior in high school at the time, and this guy was like 20 years older than me at least. So this was really weird.
Jesus, a senior in high school. So what's he? 17? 18? Let's say 18. All right. 20 years older. I'm horrible at math. 38, almost 40. That's so disturbing. A 40-year-old? I'm gonna just call you 40. You 40. Trying to hang out with an 18-year-old that's still in high school. But like, that's such a huge age gap. You might as well be 40 hanging out with somebody that's 15, 14. That's how I'm looking at it. You're still a child to me, you know? That's crazy. That's disturbing.
I was shocked at what he was saying, and I said no thanks to him. He urged me to change my mind, and I started to close the door. Finally, he said, "All right then," in a disappointed tone, and then started walking off. I was relieved to see him go. After closing and locking the door, I started to realize just how odd of a situation that was. Not only was a random guy much older than me trying to get me to go in his car with him, but he showed up at my house. How would this man know where I lived anyways? He would have had to follow me home. I became really creeped out by this and felt lucky that he didn't try to force his way in or anything. I went over and looked back out the window to see if the guy had left. He didn't. The man's car was still parked on the side of the road in the same spot, and he was in the driver's seat. I watched him for like 2 minutes straight, and he didn't drive away. I was starting to get concerned about this. His car was not parked directly in front of our house, but a little ways down. It was kind of between the side of our yard and our next door neighbors. I did my best to ignore it and was telling myself that he would probably drive away soon, but I couldn't help but worry that he might get out of his car and knock on the door again or something. About an hour went by. I was still home by myself, and I went to the window to check. I couldn't believe it, but he was still there. I could also see that he was still inside of his car. I didn't know what to do, and thought that he would have been gone for sure. But just about a minute later, I heard my parents pulling into the driveway. I was glad that they were home. When they made it inside, I told them about the guy. My dad ended up going outside to confront him, but before he could make it even close to the guy's car, the man drove away. After that night, I never saw him again. I only worked at Burger King for a few more weeks after that.
My ass.
I went to Burger King one busy afternoon about a year ago. I was going to pick up some food and bring it back home, and when I got there, I saw that the place was very busy. There was a long line, and many other people sat at tables inside. The employees seemed really busy as well, trying to keep up with the rush of people. I realized that I had probably gone at a bad time, and I got into the back of the line and waited. Things actually moved by pretty quickly though, and eventually it was my turn to order. After I placed my order, I stepped aside and waited for it to be done. There seemed to be quite a few people working there. I looked around the busy restaurant as I waited, and about 5 minutes later, I heard my order being called. I walked up to the counter, and a man was holding my bag of food. I took it and then started walking away to the exit. When I started walking, though, I remembered that I realized my shoelace had become untied. I stopped sort of by the door at an open table and set the bag of food down on it. Then I tied my shoe again. When I looked up from tying my shoe, there was a Burger King employee standing right there looking at me.
What the hell?
I stood up and saw that he appeared to be angry. The man then said that I didn't say thank you to him. I was really confused and asked him what he was talking about. He then accused me of playing dumb.
You that mad? You that mad? You lying? You not up. I worked at Chipotle for 7 years. And Chipotle is like it's like fast food, but it's like high end. It's like good quality food, right? I honestly don't care if people say thank you. I mean, it'd be nice, but like if you don't say thank you, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna break your legs, I'm not gonna start a whole ass scene. It's not that serious. It's never that serious. Like when you're working in fast food, right? You should expect, and you're dealing with the public, you should expect for people to not say thank you all the time. You should expect people not to be nice all the time. You should expect the absolute worst from people all the time. Only when they surprising you, and they saying that like being nice and shit like that, or they gonna wait on something, that's when it should surprise you, But people not being nice, that should come out to enough. You must be new to this because it's like that nah. To actually go from behind the counter out into the lobby is crazy.
He told me that he handed me my food and I didn't even say thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I admit that I didn't say thank you to the guy, and it was a mistake. Usually I do, but I guess I just forgot that time because things were so busy and people were everywhere. When I realized what he was talking about, I said, "Oh, my bad, you're right, I'm sorry. Well, thank you." He was not satisfied with this.
Oh my God.
The employee told me that it was too late, and he then grabbed my food from the table. He called me a piece of garbage, and then took the food and stuffed it into a nearby trash can.
Yo, it's Burger King. It's not like, what's, it's not like Chipotle. No, Chipotle is pretty damn good, depending on your location. Chipotle is pretty damn good. Especially if the people there and they can hook you up for real. But it's like at that point, if I was you, if I was the customer, I would have just left. Like it would have not been that serious. Like the employee, he got some personal issues going on, and it's like, nah. Doing.
I couldn't believe what he had just done. I mean, I apologized and said thank you to him, and I also paid for that food. I didn't think it was right for him to throw it away. The guy then told me to get out of his restaurant and stormed off to the employees area.
Okay.
He seemed to disappear in the back and out of my sight, and then I walked up to the counter. Things were still pretty busy, but another employee soon asked me what it was that I needed. I told her that a guy who worked here just took my food and tossed it in the garbage because I didn't say thank you. The employee told me that she knew who I was talking about, and she said that she thought he had anger problems. She said he often snapped at people for random reasons. I had thought maybe he was a manager, but I was told that he wasn't. I asked if my order could be remade, and as I was doing so, the man emerged from the back. He immediately locked eyes with me, and I saw his expression go to anger again. He stormed over and intervened. He told the other employee to go away and not to talk to me. Then he claimed that I was banned from the store. The other employee looked a little bit stressed, and I said that I would leave. I said, "Forget my order, I don't want to cause any problems. I'm just gonna leave. I apologize for not saying thank you, but I think you have some anger problems, man." Then I turned and started walking out of the restaurant. I probably should not have said that last part about anger problems to the guy. I saw out of the corner of my eye him walking over to me again. I sped up and made it outside of the restaurant, but he followed me out.
Oh my
When
God!
we were both in the parking lot, he started yelling and
Fire everybody that works there, or at least fire the person that's in charge of hiring people. Cause how do you not see that? I promise you this. I guarantee you this. During that interview with the angry person, I don't know if he's an actor or like he just switched up because he's bipolar. But like I promise you, he was on his best behavior. But then after he got the job, yeah, it was raps.
cursing at me. He followed me all the way to my car, and he even tried to get me to fight him, but I declined. I kept going and got inside my car. I was trying to keep my cool, but I really wanted to yell back at him. Still, I didn't. When I got in my car and was in my driver's door, I told him to leave me alone or I would call the police. The guy just flipped me off with both hands as I drove away, leaving the Burger King. After that experience, I never went back. It was interesting to hear the other employees' take on the guy. She seemed to know right away who would do something like that. That tells me that he probably did have some anger management issues. I'm just glad that he didn't actually try to fight me.
Okay, but like whole time, why do you have somebody like that working there? I don't know how long he worked there, but it seemed like he worked there for pretty like a while. Why do you have somebody like that works there? It's like what? And I don't even care what position he does. He still works there. Mind you, he might not cause. He may be he you know what I mean. He could have been like a dishwasher. He could have been somebody that doesn't interact with the customers at all. But he could have had a problem with the employees. It's like, how do you hire somebody like that and then keep them for as long as you do? And I hate that because it's like, it sounds like you're just hiring bodies just to fill the what's the name, just to fill the spot. You know, I've worked at Chipotle for 7 years, and I've encountered some very unique, different types of employees, and it's like, yeah, I understand that we need people, we need bodies, but at the same time, you hiring like any type of anybody's. I'm not dealing with that. That's crazy. Hiring people right off the street.
This is an experience that I had when I was in high school. During that time, I played basketball, and this was during my sophomore year.
Oh, I was about to say because this is Burger King. I was like, what Burger King? What Burger King is this? I would love to go there just because of the aesthetics. Then I realized it's high school.
I was on the junior varsity team, and one day after school we had practice. Now, my school only had a couple of gyms, and we had to share them with other sports teams. Because of this, our practice times would rotate. On this day in particular, we had the late time slot, which meant practice would go from 7 p.m. to 9:30. I rode the bus home from school in the afternoon, and then my parents drove me to practice later. That night, I remember that we got done with practice pretty early. I think it was over by like 8:45. My parents had been planning to get there to pick me up at like 9:45, so I wanted to text them to come earlier. I walked outside to the parking lot with a couple of teammates and said bye to them. When I tried to text my mom, though, I saw that I had used up all of my data.
Jesus!
My phone couldn't even send a text or a call. This was frustrating, and I couldn't get on the school Wi-Fi because I remembered that they changed the password at the time.
Wow.
So I decided to walk to a Burger King that was nearby. There were a few businesses within walking distance of our high school. It was like a gas station, a library, a Burger King, and a small grocery store that was now closed. It took like 5 minutes to walk to the Burger King that was across the street and a little ways down. I entered the restaurant and saw that it was very quiet. I didn't immediately notice anybody else inside. I was also very hungry, having just got done with practice. I had a little bit of money I carried around for food and stuff, and I ordered something small and cheap to hold me over until I got home. Then I walked into the dining room area and sat down at a booth. After sitting down, I was able to connect to the Wi-Fi, and I texted my mom to let her know to come and pick me up now. I also told her to come to the Burger King and not the high school. My mom replied pretty quickly and said that she would be on her way now. This meant that she would probably be there in around 10 to 15 minutes. I looked around the restaurant and noticed that there was actually one other person there. In one of the booths in the back corner, a man sat by himself, except I couldn't tell any details about the man. He wasn't directly facing me, and he was wearing a sweatshirt with the hood up. He was leaning over with his hands on his head. He almost had the look of a kid who fell asleep in class. It seemed slightly sketchy to me, but not a big deal. I started playing some games on my phone and finished eating as I waited for my mom to arrive. Probably 5 minutes later, though, I happened to notice the guy again. He was sitting there in the same position, but then he stood up. When he did, I saw that he was very skinny and slightly tall. He then turned to face me, and I noticed that he was also wearing sunglasses. I looked away casually and back to my phone. I expected the man to walk out of the restaurant or something, but instead, I could tell that he was walking over to me. He kept getting closer and closer. I thought maybe he would go past me to exit, but when he got to me, he just stopped. Then, he sat down at the same booth that I was in, directly across from me. I was kind of creeped out. I looked up at him, and couldn't tell if he was looking at me or not because of the sunglasses. I noticed he had long and stringy hair as well. After a few seconds, I said hi to the guy and asked how he was doing. He didn't answer me, and just kept sitting there. This was really weird. After like a minute, he still wasn't leaving. I said that I was going to be going, and I said goodnight to the guy. He still said nothing. I just wanted to get away from him at that point. I got up and walked quickly towards the exit. The man was still sitting there, but as I was making my way to the doors, I noticed him standing up. After I left the Burger King, I began walking back over to my high school because I didn't really know where else to go. As I walked along the sidewalk, I soon noticed that the man had also left Burger King. He was now on the sidewalk walking behind me. He was maybe 50 feet back. I was really concerned. I made it all the way back to my high school parking lot, and by now, all of my teammates and coaches had left. The parking lot was basically empty, and the school was locked. I wouldn't be able to get inside. The only people there were janitors. When I got there, the man was still walking behind me. I didn't stop though, and kept walking. I walked on the sidewalk, then went all the way around the school. When I got to the back of the school, things were really dark, and the guy followed me back there too.
Wow.
I quickly walked all the way back around the school again, and he was still trailing me. Soon, I made it back to the sidewalk, and didn't know where else to go. But that's when I saw my mom's car driving down the road and entering the Burger King parking lot. I started walking on the sidewalk again over to Burger King. I sped up my walking speed and checked behind me. The man was still there, and still about 50 feet back. He had sped up the same amount that I did. I didn't know what he was doing or why he was following me. When I made it to where you crossed the road to go to Burger King, I just started running. I sprinted across until I had made it to my mom's car. I got inside and told her to leave quickly. She asked me what was going on, and I told her.
Ma, 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 ma. Why are you asking questions? Huh? Why are you asking questions? Your child is running for his life and you want to ask questions. Cluck you, first and foremost, right, with all due respect. And then I'm going to answer your questions after we get home or to somewhere safe.
While we looked, and the man was still approaching. He had just crossed the street and was starting to enter the Burger King parking lot. He wasn't running, but walking at a really fast pace. My mom then drove off before he could reach our car. The guy was left standing there, and I was happy to get away from him. After that night, I never saw him again. I don't know why he followed me or who he was, but I'm really glad that my mom showed up when she did.
Your mom should have been like, it's time to get you unlimited data.
I used to work at Burger King. I worked there for almost a year, and this was in 2019 mainly, so it's been a little while now. During one of my late night shifts, I had a horrifying experience. I remember that I was working until close, which was 11 p.m. at our location at the time. Things would generally be very quiet for the last couple of hours. We would only get a few customers here and there. On this night, nobody had come inside the restaurant at all during the last hour. When it was finally time to close, I went over and locked the doors. Then I was told to make sure that the rest of the dining area was clean. I changed the garbages that were pretty full, and then noticed that the floor was a little dirty, so I got a broom to sweep it. I started towards the front counter and made my way back into the dining room. Our restaurant was pretty standard, but a little bit outdated. There were a few sort of smaller dividing walls inside of the dining room, so there could be more tables. I remember that I made it around one of the corners and was sweeping when I realized that there was a man on the ground. He was all the way on the floor, but it looked like he was hiding.
What?
He wasn't laying down, but like crouched all the way to the floor.
What?
The location that he was in was a pretty good hiding spot, to be honest. I had no idea that he had been there. When I saw him, I jumped back. I didn't say anything because I was too shocked to speak. The guy then started getting up. He faced away from me, and I didn't get a good look at his face at all. He was pretty small, though. After getting up, the man started running over to the front counter. Finally, I was able to speak, and I yelled that we were closed and he had to leave now. The guy made it to behind the counter and then hid behind it. There were two other people working, and they were both in the back kitchen area. I walked over to the counter a little bit closer to the man and yelled at him to leave. I heard the other employees start to walk over, and then the man spoke. He yelled loudly, "I'm warning you, get away from me." I heard the other employees walking away, and then the back door to the restaurant opening. The other employees must have been leaving out the back. I backed away and decided that I should leave as well and call the police. I ran out the door and into the parking lot where my car was. When I got outside, I looked back and saw the man through the window. He had stood up from behind the counter and appeared to be trying to open the cash register. I saw the other employees getting in their cars, and I got inside mine. Then I called the police. I felt obligated to wait there until they arrived because the other employees left. I waited and was sort of afraid that the man would run out at me or something, but he didn't. He stayed inside the restaurant all the way until the time the police got there. When they did, they entered the restaurant and came out with the man a short time later. I guess his plan the whole time was to hide inside until we were all gone and then steal from the cash register. Unfortunately for him, he was spotted. He tried to get what he could anyways, but was caught. This was by far the scariest experience that I had working there.
It's Burger King though, it's never that serious. What they got in the register? $10?
This happened just a few months ago. It was late at night and I was driving.
I just realized that said flame, and I thought it said lane grilling since.
Home after work. I was hungry, and there weren't a whole lot of options anymore at that hour. I pulled off the highway and looked for any open restaurant. Soon, I saw a Burger King that appeared to be open. I pulled off the road and into the quiet parking lot. As I pulled in, I saw about 2 or 3 other cars scattered around. I also happened to notice a man standing sort of by one of the other cars, but a few feet away from it. He was looking at me the whole time as I drove into a parking space. I parked and then saw that the man was walking closer to me. I'm not going to lie, I had the thought to just start my car right back up and drive away. I just found it weird that a random guy was approaching my car late at night in a Burger King parking lot. But I was hungry and I figured that it wasn't a big deal. I opened up my door and got out of my car. When I started walking to the restaurant, the man stopped me. He said hi and that he needed a favor. I said hi to the man and asked him what he wanted. The guy then asked me to give him some money. I said no pretty quickly. The guy didn't really look homeless to me. I guess it was possible, but I just didn't want to give him any money. He didn't give me a reason why or anything either. I walked past him and saw the man instantly start walking over to my vehicle. I thought that he would go back to where he had been. When I made it inside the Burger King, I looked out the window and saw that the man was now standing right at my driver's door. I watched him try to open my driver's door and then try to open the back door as well. I couldn't believe the nerve on this guy. I started to head out the doors again to try to stop him. That's when I saw the man reach into his coat pocket and pull something out. It was some type of blunt object, but I couldn't get a good look at it. My best guess is that it was some type of a hammer. The man then struck my car window with it a few times.
He just carries around a hammer just in his pocket. That's crazy.
The window eventually shattered. I saw him reaching inside of my car. At that point, I didn't want to leave the restaurant anymore. In fact, I went to the whole other side of it and then got on my phone and called the police. I wanted to get away from the guy. I told the police the situation and what was going on. A few minutes later, I went back over to look, and the man was gone. The police arrived after, and I filled out a report. My car had a busted window, and some things in the interior were messed up. However, I didn't have much of anything that was of value inside. I still can't believe the guy did that. It made me angry, but I was glad he didn't harm me at all. Since that experience, I haven't returned yet to that Burger King.
I would have been done with Burger King just in general, you know? Jesus Christ. If you're going to risk your life over a fast food restaurant, if you are, at least make it Chipotle. Don't make it McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Subway. You know, do Subway even still go by that motto? I remember, like, I don't eat Subway like that, but it's like, Subway, eat fresh. Is it? Do they still go by that? Because it's like, I would hope not. Also, if you work at a restaurant or just anywhere, not even a restaurant, just anywhere, and an employee or somebody that they just hired doesn't seem right in the head, what you leave? Just leave, because something's bound to happen. Like, hiring somebody that has anger problems, or hiring somebody that has any type of problem and it's not really controllable is dangerous. So, if you see somebody like that, whether they work with you or not, or if they're a customer, just stay the hell away from them, please. But I don't think any job is worth dying over anything. So, especially fast food. Fast food. Also, I said it earlier in the video, but like, if you work at this fast food restaurant, just expect the worst from people. Only when they do something nice is when you should be like, oh, you said thank you. All right. Now we getting somewhere. But other than that, keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.